Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, Practical and Actionable Marketing Tools for Artists and Organisations with Monica Davidson from Creative Plus Business. My name is Frances and I'm delighted to be your host for today. But first I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the many countries throughout Australia and from where all of you are joining us today. I acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of the land and waters upon which I am lucky enough to live, work and play here in Sydney. I pay my deep respects to their elders, past, present and future, and encourage you all to share in the chat today where you're joining us from. Currently on slide is a blue PowerPoint slide with a gold semicircle in the top right-hand corner. There is some gold text and white text and video boxes with our guest speakers and Auslan interpreter. I am a woman in my early 30s with fair skin, wavy brown hair, blue eyes, and today wearing a grey jumper with a collared shirt underneath. In the background is my living room. We're still working from home. There are plants, colourful artworks on the wall, and my couch. These sessions have been designed and produced for you. We hope that the series has offered you some practical resources and a sense of collective support as we together reimagine our futures and practices in these ever-changing times. Today, we're excited to launch the first of our 9 new sector-led sessions. We received so many great proposals from webinars from the sector, and there's still plenty of time to sign up to these as well. You can even learn how to make a dance GIF next Friday with Matt Cornell, so I encourage you to jump on that. We'll share on in the chat right now the link for these new releases, and we'd love for you to join us. But before I hand over to Monica, just a quick reminder that Future Form, an opportunity for small to medium arts organisations to transform and innovate their core business models, closes tonight at midnight. It's been so great to see so much interest in this program, particularly at this pivotal time. If you missed our webinar, The Arts Business Model Canvas with Future Form facilitator Tara Van Amerongen last Friday, it's now available for viewing on our website. We're also just over halfway now from when we started the Creative Connection series on the 1st of April. We're amazed to have had close to 6,000 of you join these sessions along the way, and we really now want to hear your thoughts. Early next week, we'll be sending everyone who registered an email with a short survey, and we'd really appreciate your time in filling this out for us. Your responses are a valuable way to better understand the outcomes of this series, to discover which sessions have helped shape and influence your thinking during this time, and importantly, to guide future programming. Please keep an eye out for the survey in your inboxes early next week. So I know many of you have now attended these webinars, so I'll keep the housekeeping quick. Live captioning is available via Zoom and can be toggled on or off using the CC closed caption button below. As always, please feel free to use the chat feature to engage with each other and share any thoughts, ideas and links throughout today's webinar. We'll also be posting some of the links that Monica mentions throughout today. Similarly, if you have any questions throughout the session, please feel free to post these at any time in the Q&A button rather than sending them through the chat just so we don't lose them. We'll aim to get through as many questions as we can at the end of today's session. And finally, a recording of today's webinar, as always, will be available around mid next week. We'll send you this via email along with the PowerPoint and any resources mentioned today. So now on screen is a navy blue PowerPoint slide to introduce our guest speaker. There is a title to introduce Monica Davidson. Next to her headshot, a square cropped image of a woman with fair skin, dark brown straight hair with a fringe, smiling at the camera. Monica is an award-winning expert on creative industries who began her professional life as a freelance journalist and filmmaker. 5 years ago, in 2015, Monica founded the social enterprise Creative Plus Business, an organisation dedicated to educating creative people on business skills. The team have now worked with over 6,000 practitioners and businesses to help them become more entrepreneurial. If you haven't already, I highly recommend you check out their website, which is jam-packed full of webinar links, resources, advisory services, all of which are either free or really reasonably priced. Everyone that works at Creative Plus Business is also a creative practitioner themselves. So they really get it on a fundamental level and are here to support you. Monica is here today to share with us 5 practical tips about marketing for artists and organizations, importantly with a focus on capacity. Monica wants you to leave today thinking about how you might be able to use this time to upskill and make marketing part of your learning. And she's got a ton of resources to help you. It is now with great pleasure that I hand over to Monica to share some slides with us. Thank you so much for joining us today, Monica.
Thank you, Frances. It's absolutely great to be here, and thank you so much for having me. And I would like to also pay my respects to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people joining us today. I was born on Awabakal land, but I now live and work on Gadigal land, and we at Creative Plus Business have pledged ourselves as allies so that we can walk together towards a more inclusive future. Now, let me just share my screen with you so we can kick off. I should also mention that I am still a smiling woman with fair skin and dark hair. Today I'm wearing a red cardigan and I'm sitting in front of some books, and there's a fireplace just behind me as well. I'll do my best to describe the slides, in particular all of the links that I'm going to be sharing with you, but those links will also be available in the chat, and you can ask me questions at the end of the presentation. So my main focus to start with is to debunk some ideas about marketing before we really kick off. It might seem counterintuitive, but now is the best time really to be thinking about your marketing and what it means from a holistic point of view. Although today I will really be also focusing very much on the practical activities that you can undertake during this time. So I've got 5 tips that I'm going to share with you. And I also have 3 golden rules. So lots of numbered lists today. And like I said, although today's information is really quite general, I'll do my best to answer questions at the end. So here is the first of the golden rules of arts marketing. The first one is to build relationships. Contrary to popular belief, I don't really think that marketing is about selling. Creative practitioners very often have a negative response to this idea of marketing. And consequently, I think we do tend to have quite a passive approach to the idea of marketing, in that the belief that anything that we do that's active will be perceived as a hard sell. I would actually like to frame this idea of marketing as building relationships. So my first golden rule of arts marketing is to think about it in those terms, to build relationships. It's a relationship between those of you who have something to offer and those people or organizations who might want to engage with that offering. So for those of you who are joining us as individual creatives, that could be a relationship with clients or with customers or with funding bodies. The same is true for those of you who are joining us from larger organizations. Your relationships might also be with funding bodies or with your audience. I'm talking about the relationship between those 2 halves when I'm talking about marketing, which I hope takes the edge off a little bit. But thinking about it in those terms also means that this is quite a sophisticated and delicate relationship that takes time to nurture and time to get right. So that's really what I want to talk about, and that's the framework that I'm approaching this from. I think thinking about marketing in terms of selling really limits the amount of good work that can be done in this space. And another thing about building relationships is that it's not just about your relationships with those external people who might be interested in engaging with what you have to offer. It's also about the internal relationships within an organization. Again, for solo practitioners, you already know this, but I really do believe that marketing needs to be everybody's job. I don't think that it should be a siloed activity that's just undertaken by one person. Everybody in an arts organization or in an arts business can take some marketing responsibility, and it can start to become a shared idea of building relationships. My second golden rule is to confirm trust. In any relationship, trust is absolutely vital, of course. Organizations and individual creatives need to establish trust and then demonstrate that trustworthiness without actually being so ham-fisted as to say we're really trustworthy. The irony is that as soon as you start saying that you're trustworthy, people will stop believing you. So it's important to figure out ways to infer that you are trustworthy, and I'll go through some of those as we're going on. But the most important thing to remember, I think, about the current market is that everybody is anxious about spending money. Everybody's anxious about the financial situations that we're in. And I think that anxiety is likely to increase as we move further into economic decline. I really hope that I'm wrong. I'm attempting to be positive, but it's also important to be realistic about what's happening. As people have less money, they will become choosier about where they put that money. They'll be more circumspect about this hard sell. And again, I'm talking about everybody that you might engage with, from individuals through to funding bodies. So having a strategy and taking your time becomes really vital. My third tip is the acronym WIIFT. In other words, what's in it for them? It's easy to think of marketing as a narcissistic exercise in which you just spend all of your time talking about yourselves. And again, for people who don't have any marketing training, that seems to be the only option. But that's bad marketing. Only bad marketing is narcissistic. The best kind of marketing, the best kinds of relationships are those where we build empathy, where we think about the people who have, you know, money in their pockets or something to give us in exchange for what we're offering. And if we ever start to lose sight of that, if we ever start to spiral into that narcissistic, insistent talking about ourselves all of the time, it's time to go back to the drawing board. So those are my 3 golden rules. I will be coming back to them again at the end. For now, I want to go through my tips. So my first tip number 1, is press pause. It's entirely possible that you already have. Perhaps external circumstances have forced you to press pause. But even if that's not the case, I think now is a good time to evaluate and review all of your current marketing. Even if you don't think that what you're doing is marketing, now is still the time to examine those relationships. So when you're going through this audit that I'm about to recommend, always be thinking about the 3 golden rules. How can you build relationships? How can you confirm that you're trustworthy? And how can you better understand those people that you want to engage with? So there's some text on the slide at the moment, which I'm going to walk through. The first one is review. Review anything and everything that you are currently doing that could be classified as marketing, even if you don't think of it as marketing, even if you have a fairly passive approach to marketing, which is, you know, essentially hoping for word of mouth. Now is still the time to actually review anything and everything that could be classified as a marketing strategy. What are you currently doing to build those relationships, whether that's big or small, in real life or digital, traditional marketing, or maybe something a little bit more left of center? When you're going through that review, it's also important to analyze. Think about how you are currently promoting yourself to the world, and think about whether or not it's actually working. One of the things that we often forget to do is measure our marketing activities. And that's even more problematic if you don't actually classify yourself as doing any marketing. But even if you are, marketing without some form of measurement attached to it is essentially a massive waste of time and potentially money. So when you are reviewing all of your marketing strategies, think about all the different things that you hope to achieve from those strategies, and think about whether or not they're actually working. Are you getting the results that you're looking for when you undertake those strategies, even if it's as simple as posting something on Facebook or having a coffee with a potential client? The next word is interrogate. How do you currently get engagement? How do you currently get work? How do you currently get people to engage with what you're offering, give you money, give you funding, buy your tickets? Again, this is about backtracking what's working and being a little bit more strenuous in your examination of all these processes. It's then time to do an audit. And an audit sounds very much like everything that I've already been talking about, but I'm suggesting that you'd approach it in a more straightforward way. Do you have a website? Is it doing what it's supposed to do? Are you conducting social media activities? Again, what are you doing on social media? Is it working? Are there elements of social media that you're not using when you should be? Are there elements that you're using and getting no results? What other activities, practical activities, are you undertaking as well? And, you know, interrogate those, audit those, and see whether or not there are things you want to get rid of, or things that you want to enhance, or new activities that you want to bring in. It's also really important at this point, when you're hitting pause, to examine your language and your imagery. What kind of words are you using when you're communicating to the outside world? Again, that could be the words on your website. That could be the words that you're using in Facebook posts. It can even come down to the words that you're using in email correspondence with people, or the way you answer the phone. Are they words that are going to help you to build more effective relationships? And apply that same thinking to the images that you're using. Are the images that are out there of you, or the people in your organization, or the work that you've done before, are they of a high quality? Do you have permission to use them? Are they representing you in the best possible way? And the final tip is brand. The easiest way to explain branding is to think of it as the personality of your organization, or the personality of yourself that's out there in the world. Do you have a brand? Is it holding up okay? If you don't have a brand, if you don't have a clearly understandable personality that's out there in the world, is it time to develop one? And again, I'll be sharing more resources with you in a moment about how to make that happen. So those are the first lot of tips that I'd like to suggest when it comes to pressing pause. And for each one of these tips, I'm going to give you a suggested action that you can undertake to keep it super practical. So my action for tip number 1 is to conduct an audit of all your marketing. What's working? What are you going to keep? What are you going to ditch? And what are you going to hold over until this crisis is complete? Tip number 2, is upskill. I think now is the perfect time to learn something new, although I would actually suggest that learning about marketing really needs to be incorporated as part of your overall marketing strategy, because there will always be something new to learn. This is a quickly evolving world, and it's really in our best interests to stay current with what's happening. When you hit pause and went through the analysis of your marketing activities, it's very likely that you identified some gaps in there, and that's the best place to start. So if there were any elements that you feel you weren't really doing a good job with, or there were elements that you weren't using effectively, like for example, LinkedIn, now's the time to learn. Perfect time. If you have someone who's in charge of marketing in your organization, then obviously this needs to be part of their job. But as I mentioned earlier, I would suggest that learning more about marketing can be everybody's job, so that it becomes more cohesive across the whole organization. Or if you're a solo practitioner, there's always going to be ways that you can upskill in your marketing to find better, more efficient ways of building those relationships that fall within your capacity. Yeah. So I'm going to share a whole bunch of slides with you now that have website links on them. Those links are going to go into the chat, and they'll also be available to you afterwards if you need to follow up with them. I won't read them all out, but I will suggest what you can search on Google if you want to find these particular platforms, and almost all of them are free. The first one is called Google Digital Garage. Again, you can search Google Digital Garage if you're looking for this page, or it will go into the chat. Digital Garage is a not-for-profit e-learning academy that Google started a couple of years ago to provide training initially on how to better use Google for marketing purposes. But it's now become much broader than that. There are actually a whole lot of different digital skills that you can learn using this platform, and they are all free. They are all also quite short, very easy to access, and video based, which makes them, in my opinion, a bit more entertaining. Some of the marketing topics that you can learn include the fundamentals of digital marketing, how to promote business, how to produce business content, how to build your confidence with self-promotion. And there are even resources on networking and public speaking and a whole lot more. They're all free, so I highly recommend that you go and have a look. The next one is called Facebook Blueprint. Facebook also started their own e-learning or online learning academy a few years ago to help train people in how to use Facebook more effectively for marketing purposes. They've now broadened it out, and it offers free self-paced courses on how to use Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, and WhatsApp as part of your marketing suite. So if you haven't explored all of those things, this is the perfect place to do it. I always recommend Blueprint because there are third parties that you can access if you want to learn more about social media, and I'll discuss some of those in a minute. But the algorithms that Facebook use are changing so quickly that, in a way, getting the education about how to use these platforms from Facebook directly ensures that they will be as up to date as possible. And the fact that they're free also helps. So this goes through everything, including how to create a Facebook page for your business or your organization, all the way through to growing your business on Instagram. And there are even sessions, masterclasses on marketing for public figures and content creators, which I think is really fascinating. For those of you who are interested in using YouTube for marketing purposes, I would recommend YouTube Creator Academy. Again, this is a free online learning platform provided by YouTube via Google, their parent company. And there are a whole lot of videos on here about how to use YouTube more effectively. Now, many of them are aimed at people who want to become YouTubers, people who want to use YouTube as a source of revenue. But there are also plenty of online modules that you can do through Creator Academy, including things like how to do live streaming and how to get community engagement, which I think is really important for arts organizations. LinkedIn, unfortunately, isn't particularly great in terms of learning for creative practitioners. So we at Creative Plus Business identified a little bit of a gap there. And we have a free webinar available called LinkedIn Tips for Creatives. We run free webinars once a month about a range of topics. Many of them are related to marketing, and I'll share that page with you later. But this was a webinar that we did last year, and it is still current. So I highly recommend that you log on and watch that one or listen to it in order to get some more effective tips for LinkedIn. LinkedIn isn't necessarily people's first port of call when they're thinking about marketing, but it can be a really useful platform to build relationships with decision makers, funding organizations, senior producers, and people who are high up in the creative industries. So give it a go. If you think that your design skills need a little bit of improvement during this time, then I'd recommend the Canva Design School. So again, this is a reasonably new platform, which was originally designed as a teacher resource to help teachers learn more about design that they could share in the classroom. But all of the curriculum and the videos and courses here are also available for other people. So again, I recommend that you go and check it out, designschool.canva.com. There are lots of topics in here, including topics about branding, which I mentioned earlier on with tip number 1. Now, the next slide is only for those of you in New South Wales, unfortunately, but I would recommend doing research in your own state. TAFE New South Wales is offering fee-free short courses at the moment, and I believe some other TAFEs are doing the same. some of the topics included in these free courses include creating and maintaining websites, social media, brand presentations, and enhancing customer service, which, as I said earlier, even how you talk on the phone or address emails to people is a marketing activity that needs to be audited at this time. So tafenewsouthwales.edu.au, if you search fee-free short courses, you should find this fairly easily. And the final two recommendations that I'm going to share with you are both paid platforms. They're not free, but they are very easy to use, and we frequently recommend them to clients and participants in our workshops. The first one is called Udemy, U-D-E-M-Y, and they offer thousands of courses about marketing, which are reasonably priced. They're around the $20 mark for quite extensive online learning possibilities. And the final one is called creativelive.com. Again, they have a range of classes about a whole lot of different aspects of marketing, which I highly recommend. And again, the price point is about $20 per course. So my action tip for all of these things is to pick something new to learn about marketing. When you're finished, pick something else and make learning a part of your overall marketing strategy, not just for now, but into the future as well. Tip number 3 is to acknowledge the truth. It's really important to acknowledge what's going on at the moment, whether that's the COVID-19 crisis or the economic impacts of that or Black Lives Matter. I think any organization or business or even individual practitioners who ignore what's happening in the world will be doing so at their peril. It is really common to hope that ignoring these situations will be the best marketing approach. But failure to communicate is a mistake, in my opinion. You need to tell your truthful story. You need to be honest with the people that you're trying to build a relationship with about how these different external factors are impacting on you. Now, I'm not necessarily suggesting that you share only the negative consequences of that, nor am I suggesting that you be relentlessly positive. I'm simply suggesting that you acknowledge the truth and share when appropriate how that truth is impacting on you. Because as I mentioned earlier, my second golden rule is about confirming trust. And one of the easiest ways to confirm trust is to be truthful about what's happening to you. So remember that this needs to be a part of all the different ways that you're marketing yourself. It doesn't need to be over the top, and it does need to be an appropriate response. So that could be anything from having a statement on your website or on your Facebook page, or simply acknowledging what's happening when you're communicating directly with people. And that's true when you're also conducting email conversations with people. There's a snapshot of Gmail on the screen at the moment. I think one of the easiest ways to establish trust at the moment is to be quick but thoughtful in your response to inquiries. If you are ignoring emails and if you are ignoring phone calls or messages that you're receiving through social media, which is an entirely appropriate personal response to the crisis, it can come across as dodgy or ignorant. And unfortunately, you don't get to decide how other people are going to perceive what's going on for you. You may have decided to just shut the door and ignore the world for a little while for the purposes of your own mental health, or because you need a minute to deal with sorry business or take that time for yourself. But if that continues for too long without any form of communication with the outside world, it can become problematic. Even something as simple as having an out of office message on your email that acknowledges what's going on, gives people some direction as to how you're dealing with it and when you'll be available, I think that can make a tremendous difference. Don't ignore what's going on, But also I would suggest that it's probably best to not posit any public theories about what's going to happen. We can only take what's happening at the moment day by day. And I think that, you know, at this stage, anybody who emerges confidently with information about what they think is going to happen could end up looking foolish in the future. And I'm extending that to politicians as well as to individual practitioners and organizations. Nobody knows what's going to happen. And it's okay to not know. It's okay to acknowledge that. And it's okay to share appropriately what your response is to what's happening. So the action tip for this is to go on a scavenger hunt. How have other artists, creative people, and organizations managed during this crisis? Go on a scavenger hunt for resources, articles, ideas, images, anything that you can see other people have done that is inspiring to you, wording that you might want to use or be inspired by to address Black Lives Matter or what's happening with COVID-19, imagery that you think is appropriate. Just try and keep it on brand for your own way of dealing with the world. If your organization has quite a serious way of talking to the world, communicating with clients or audiences, take that tone of voice. If you have a slightly more playful or frivolous way of dealing with the world, that's okay too, as long as it's appropriate. Keep it on brand and make sure you're trying to tell the truth. Now, the next tip might seem a little bit like I'm contradicting myself, but tip number 4 is desperation is not your friend. People are panicking. Many of us are in dire straits, and that is the truth of the situation. Tip number 3, I suggested that you acknowledge that truth, but this is where we have to create a little bit of a boundary between what's going on for us and how our personal response to that leaks out into our marketing. It's a really delicate balance, as I mentioned earlier, and it does sound a little bit contradictory, but bear with me. As creative practitioners, as creative organizations, it's really important that we're always staying connected to our creativity and to our inspiration and to our emotional relationship and our subjective relationship with our craft and with the people who want to engage in that craft. But it's also important that we find a balance between that and our objective, logical business mind when it comes to marketing. And the push and pull of that is a constant struggle for some people. Some of us find it also really exciting in a weird way. I'm one of those people. But that's where we need to start creating some boundaries, particularly in really small organizations, but very particularly for those of you who are individual practitioners or working in a small partnership. The bleed between your personal response to what's going on and the way you need to present yourself authentically to the world can be really tricky to navigate. So even if you are freaking out, even if you are panicking, please try and keep your desperation to yourself. Please try and make sure that desperation is not leading your marketing messages, because in a lot of ways, marketing is very much like dating. It's important when you're thinking about your marketing and your dating to think about how to be attractive. And desperation is only attractive to people who are attracted to desperation. I'm not sure if those are the kinds of people that you want to be building those relationships with right now. So if you go out into the world, in a marketing sense, trying to build relationships with people, and you have that stink of desperation on you, people will know. And people will remember. In the first couple of weeks of the COVID-19 crisis, I received a great number of very desperate emails from people who wanted something from me. Many of those people completely neglected to ask whether or not we were okay or whether or not we even had the capacity to help them. I understand why people are desperate at the moment, but we are talking about marketing here, and desperation can be a massive turn-off for some people in this time. So I'm suggesting at this point that if you have ever undertaken the so-called hard sell as part of your marketing, stop. Don't be pushy. People don't necessarily want to buy anything at the moment. People don't want you to be overtly trying to promote yourself or push yourself. It's actually time to take a little bit more of a step back, ironically, even though we're talking about marketing, and think more about playing that long game, building those relationships and trying to nurture what's happening so that you can survive and hopefully continue to have those relationships when this horrible time is over, whenever that is and whatever that looks like. I think this is also a time for generosity. Now, we could have a whole half an hour webinar just talking about offering things for free and whether that's positive or negative for our industry, and I appreciate that's a complicated topic. Generosity at this time, however, is the antidote to desperation, because desperation is very, very self-focused and generosity is very externally focused. And as I mentioned at the beginning, as soon as your marketing activities start becoming narcissistic, it's time to stop and go back to the drawing board. So even if you don't feel like it's the right move, think about how you can turn that desperate approach into a generous approach, and try and remember that desperation is only attractive to a select group of people, many of whom we don't want in our lives right now. My tip for desperation is to work out in advance, if you can, what measures you can take to decrease your desperation. For example, you might want to assemble a brains trust of, people within your organization or advisors or mentors that you trust, maybe even close family and friends. And if you feel that a marketing message that you want to send out into the world is a little bit desperate, get them to have a look at it first and give you their opinion. If you feel that panicky desperation rising up in you, don't undertake any marketing activities in that moment. Go for a walk, play with your dog, figure out some other way of distracting yourself. And if you really want to write that email or send that message, write it down in a Word document first and then walk away. Wait until the feeling of desperation has passed and then come back and have another look at it. You can trust your own instincts in this time, but I'm suggesting that this entire strategy is about slowing things down, taking a breath, and making sure that you're analyzing whether or not your activities and your impulses are appropriate given what's going on. Trauma is hard, and lots of us are experiencing trauma at the moment in various levels. So we need to be kind to ourselves. We need to find that balance, and we need to just try and eliminate desperation when we can. My final tip is to supercharge your empathy. And this is drawing back on the threads of things that I've already mentioned, like being generous and the 3 golden rules of arts marketing: building relationships, confirming trust, and always keeping at the forefront of your mind what's in it for them. Think about all of the marketing and messaging that's out there in the world and make sure that it's not all about you. Yes, it's important for you to acknowledge the truth of what's happening to you. Yes, of course, in your marketing, it's important to share the activities that you're undertaking or the things that are happening for you, but it's not all about you. So supercharge your empathy. Think about all the different ways in which you can use your marketing to actually promote other people. Are there interesting things that are happening in your sector that you can share through social media? Are there other people who are trying new things or launching new products that you can share with your clients as well? I think promoting other people, being generous in what you can afford to share, if you have the capacity for it, being kind, and being thoughtful about how you approach things. And even as simple as, if you are emailing something to somebody and you want something from that person, why not inquire to see if they're okay? An email to a fan or a faithful audience member or a long-term client, just checking in and asking if they're okay, that can do wonders for building a relationship. Don't ask for anything, just see how they're doing. In the early days of the crisis, I received, unfortunately, only a couple of emails from people just saying, how are you doing, Monica? How are the Creative Plus business team? Is everything okay? Are you managing? I'll remember that. And I think that's the important thing about building these long-term relationships. People have long memories when it comes to these periods of time, and cultivating your community, thinking less of people as competitors and more of them as peers. I think that kind of thinking, even though it may not sound like it, is a wonderful marketing approach to take at the moment. There's a TED talk by a man called Simon Sinek, who I've got a bit of a crush on, to be honest. Simon Sinek is a bit of a marketing guru, and he has lots of really interesting ideas that I enjoy. But this TED talk is called The Tribes We Lead. It's a little bit older, but I think it still resonates now. It's based on a book that he wrote called Tribes, which I also recommend. And if you just do a Google search on TED Talks, The Tribes We Lead, you will find this pretty quickly. He talks in this TED presentation about the sense of community and how the digital space can help us to revive this idea of a tribe, a group of people who share the same passions or the same beliefs or the same values, or in this case, a group of people who are experiencing the same external crises or the same challenges, and using the power of the tribe to actually start to affect change. I think it's really empowering, and I highly recommend that you go and have a look. My tip for my final tip here about supercharging your empathy is to research again the best of the empathetic arts organizations and people. Go onto LinkedIn and see if you can find people that you're connected to who are using that platform to promote others. See if you can go onto other forms of social media or other people's websites and think about how they're using this time to be generous and thoughtful about the lovely people who might want to give them money at some stage. Whether, again, that's an individual client through to a funding body or an audience member. If you can find some examples to inspire you, then you can mimic that spirit and think more about how to be empathetic. Now we're almost at the Q&A part. I just wanted to share 2 more resources with you to help you make the most of your marketing. The first one is a page from our website, creativeplusbusiness.com, called Mondo Marketing. If you do a Google search on the words Mondo Marketing, you will find us. This page contains links and resources and downloads and a whole range of different resources to help you capitalize on everything that I've been talking about. You can find everything here from the online learning academies that I mentioned through to training on some of the other social media platforms that I didn't mention, like Pinterest, through to free website builders, and even a few real people that we recommend to help you with your marketing needs. So go to Mondo Marketing, you'll find what you need. And my final share is our Crowdcast channel. As I mentioned, we run free workshops and webinars for creative practitioners all the time. Many of those have a marketing focus. Because we're a social enterprise, all of these workshops and webinars are currently free. And if you go to our Crowdcast channel, Creative Plus Business, you will find them all there. They will be available to watch from now on until whenever we decide to take them down, which doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon. And we also have a Vimeo channel, which has these webinars in closed caption format. Thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to hearing your questions.
Great. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi again. Thanks so much, Monica. That was just perfect. And I think what a great set of tools and resources you offered everyone. So thank you so much for sharing those with us.
My pleasure. It was quick and broad, but a good start, I hope.
Absolutely, absolutely. We've had a couple of questions come through, so I'll just get started if that's okay. We've had one from Joe, which actually came about halfway through your session, which is, hi Monica, is there an amount of time per week to spend on marketing that is considered best practice? I'm a sole trader, writer, artist, and aim to spend about 20 to 30% of my time on marketing, but I find the balancing act of producing work and marketing tricky. Do you have any sort of suggestions or tips that you could offer, Joe?
Yeah, I've got two, to be honest. And time management when it comes to marketing is a really, really common problem. So first thing I would suggest is setting aside, rather than bits of time, I'd actually suggest setting aside a whole day, maybe once a month. If your aim is about 20% of the time, then that's a really good way of doing it. Clear your schedule for that day. Turn off your phone if you can, try not to get too distracted, and use that day to do the kind of marketing activities that require you to focus. That's writing content or creating videos or doing more research or building a website or updating a website. All of that can be done on a day, and one day a month is going to be more than enough, I think, if you're a sole trader. Then I would also suggest setting aside a little bit of time at the beginning of each week. We call it the Monday morning meeting, although it doesn't have to be on a Monday. We actually have a whole webinar about the Monday morning meeting that you can go and watch because I'm such a fan. And during that Monday morning meeting that you have with yourself, when you're kind of going through your to-do list for the week, think about what marketing activities you're going to undertake then, and try and put time into your calendar at the same time for when you're actually going to do those things. But it's also possible for some things, for social media, for example, you can get schedules, scheduler apps like Hootsuite. Some of the social media platforms allow you to schedule things in advance as well. And those sorts of digital applications can help you manage your time too. It's really that big picture of one day a month, doing that deep thinking and preparation, and then taking a little bit of time each week just to figure out what practical things you're going to do in that week and making the time to do them.
Great. That's super helpful advice. Thanks, Monica. And it doesn't look like we've got too many questions. So if you do have another question, please do feel free to pop it through. It seems like you've answered everyone's questions throughout your presentation, Monica.
How possible?
Something that came up when you were talking about sort of making sure that we communicate through this crisis is a question around digital noise and how do we avoid just adding to that noise, and how do we have our voice heard through this sort of time?
I think a lot of that digital noise is being driven by desperation. That's how I'm perceiving it. A lot of people are just hurling stuff out there and hoping that it hits someone or something. It doesn't necessarily seem to be particularly empathetic, which means it's not particularly strategic. If contributing to that digital noise is something that you feel uncomfortable about, or if it's not really on brand for you, you can still take that slightly more personal approach of contacting real people and seeing if they want to have a Zoom coffee with you, or an actual real live coffee if you're allowed out. It could be about slowing down the whole process actually, and just doing a little bit more research about exactly who is it that you're building these relationships with. I think sometimes creative practitioners and arts organisations cast that net way too wide. We are specialists in what we are doing. We are not going to appeal to everybody. It's just not possible. We can't sell everything to everybody. We're not supermarkets. We can't be all things to all people all of the time. So as part of the upskilling and part of this pause idea could be about taking the time to really think carefully about exactly who is it that I'm building a relationship with. Am I building a relationship with every single person that's got money in their pocket, or every single funding body out there? Or should I just be focusing my attention on a couple of really small groups if you realize, which you might do, that those small groups are going to be more effective for you in terms of your capacity and your time, then you're really not adding to this big picture of digital noise. It's very, very focused, it's very empathetic, and it's very thoughtful. And I think that's really the key to building these relationships.
Great, thank you. That's super helpful. And actually a follow-on question has just come through from Lucas, who says, hi Monica, to avoid the supermarket approach, what's a good way to identify the groups who might be interested in our work? So probably thinking about this, the strategies around building your voice and developing your brand.
I suppose it really, Lucas, it depends on whether or not you're just starting out or if you've been around for a little while. One of the most effective marketing strategies, which is also one of the most underutilized, is very simply analyzing what's worked before. So if anybody has ever engaged with you in the past, if anybody's ever wanted to give you money in exchange for whatever it is that you're offering, then something's worked. Something happened within that relationship to make that person cross over the line from interested to engaged. And if you can backtrack that and think about, well, where did that relationship start and how did it move forward and how was I active in that relationship, that can give you a bit of a tip about not only what's working, but also who you could focus your attention on now. But again, always bear in mind that empathy is super important, even though obviously everything that we're doing is vital. When you're talking to people who are economically stressed, we are a luxury. There will still be people out there who want to engage with our luxuries, whether that's hiring a graphic designer or, going to the theatre when it opens again, downloading music. But when people are really highly stressed, we're not necessarily going to be high on their list of priorities. So I would start small. If you really don't know at all who you should be focusing your attention on, then some basic market research is a good idea. And there's more links for that on our Mondo Marketing page. But try the backtracking thing and see if that works, because even if you can just identify one or two types of people who've engaged with you in the past, that could open up the door about who to focus your attention on going forward.
Great. Thank you so much, Monica. I mean, I think you've just given us so many tips, resources, links to refer to, and it's just been a really super practical session. So I hope everyone's got a lot out of this. We've run a little bit out of time now, sorry, so we won't take any more questions. But if you do still have a burning question that you would like Monica to answer, then please do send it through to our leadership inbox, which is leadershipprogram@australiacouncil.gov.au, and we'll pass that on to Monica for you. Monica, do you have any last words or any sort of final things that you'd like to leave people with before we wrap up for today?
Look, it's super cheesy, but just hang in there, everybody. I've been doing this for a really long time, and even though things might seem bleak now, if we just take it slow, keep going, keep learning, and keep being kind to each other, we will figure out a way out of this. We're all very clever and creative, and I'm sure we'll figure it out.
Great, thank you. I loved your mention throughout of generosity and kindness. It's something to really keep forefront of mind at this time. So just quickly before we go, I wanted to just remind you that we have a couple other things coming up. So later today we have our regular First Nations Roundtable, of course with Wesley Enoch and Leanne Buckskin, today in conversation with Ruth Langford and Vicky Cousins about the First Nations Australia Council program Chosen. This First Nations Roundtable is free and open to all, and I'd encourage you to sign up and join us. And of course, next week, we'll hear about new experiences in the digital world with Think Inside the Square webinar on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, we're welcoming Dr. Riona Tyndall to ask us to rethink inclusive practices online and what this really looks like for access and inclusion into the future. So thank you again for joining us today. Thank you, Monica.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Rebecca and Shavoy, to our live captioner, and to my wonderful team behind the scenes. And of course, to all of you for joining us. Thank you for being here, and we hope to see you next time. Bye.